Cop Talk is brought to you by Good Greek Moving and Storage, your total relocation solution.
This is Cop Talk, talking crime, cases, and backing the blue. Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mehmet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cop Talk. I'm Kevin Schroeder, your host. I'm here with my co-host, Ed Mamet.
Hello, WABC listeners. Today we have a very interesting group. It's more than one person. We have several people. It should be exciting.
So today's guest on Cop Talk is Cathy Hanson. Cathy Hanson is the widow of Detective Michael Hanson. Michael Hanson was a retired detective, NYPD detective, who spent 19 years in the Emergency Service Unit. He served as a rescue worker during 9/11. Tragically, he passed away in 2018 from an illness sustained during the rescue work. His widow, Cathy, is fighting to have his death recognized as a result of his heroic actions. In this episode, we are going to point out, Cathy will point out, she's here with her attorney, Tim McInerney, and also she's here with Jeannie Kelly, the 9/11 Director of Outreach and Education for the World Trade Center Health Program. Together, they'll discuss Michael's life, legacy, and the ongoing legal battle with New York City and New York State. Cathy, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cathy, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and Michael? How did you meet? When did you meet? Where did you meet?
Mike and I met in nursing school together. A mutual friend introduced us. We became friends and began dating in the end of 79. And then we got married in 1982.
Okay. Cathy, can you tell us about your childhood growing up? Where you grew up?
So I grew up in Bay Ridge, a family of 5. He was the middle child. His mom was a stay-at-home mom at that time. His dad and his maternal grandfather were both police officers, as well as some cousins. Mike's dad was in emergency service as well. He was at 6 Truck. And Mike used to go there all the time with his dad to pick up his check, and just learned everything about being there and about the trucks and just loved it.
So, I worked with Michael. I was fortunate enough to work with Mike and actually Jeannie Kelly as well, our other guest, in Midtown North Precinct back in the mid-'80s. And Mike was a great cop, a great worker. He was an RN, registered nurse, which, in the mid-'80s, there wasn't many cops who were registered nurses, and I think that's great. And I know he went off to Emergency Service Unit, and he spent, as we said, 19 years in emergency service. But Mike was always a guy. I knew him pretty well in Midtown North. We got along very well. Mike got along with everybody. And I also, where you resided for many years upstate New York, I used to see Mike up there as well. So I knew Mike well. And it's, it's a shame what has happened.
Mike was also, when I met him, he was an EMT. Then he became an ER nurse. Then he became a police officer in 1985, as you know, Kevin, in your class and Jeannie's class. And then while he was working as an ER nurse, he put himself through medic school at the same time. So he wore many hats, as we'd like to say.
What inspired Michael to become a cop?
He used to go and see his dad at 6 Truck. It was always instilled in him to, help people and do the best you can in every situation. He just loved being there at 6 Truck, meeting the guys and seeing all that they could do with rescue works. It was just in his blood, actually, Kevin.
Now, where is ESU Truck 6? Is that the
That's in Bay Ridge.
Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. Okay, that's right. 1 and 2 is Manhattan. I know that.
Correct.
Captain?
For our listeners, emergency service is a very unique part of the police department. There's an old expression: when the public is in trouble, they call the police, and when the police are in trouble, they call emergency service. Have you ever heard that one?
Correct. They're very specialized units, very difficult to get into it. And they not only train in SWAT, rappelling, rescue work. He was a scuba diver. He used to jump from helicopters to rescue people that would jump in the East River, climb the bridges,
He's an instructor.
barricades.
He was an instructor too, right, Kath? He did.
Yes, he was an instructor at Floyd Bennett Field, and he always gave the test every year. He used to fly between all the trucks, and that's how he met so many people. He loved it. He just loved flying between the trucks and, teaching everybody in all his vast knowledge, making their lives better.
I'm assuming you knew, or you know Al Baker?
Al was the one, he was Mike's dad's last partner. And Al actually interviewed Mike to get into ESU. And Mike got in 1987.
Yes. Well, we had Al on the radio here, on the station. He's a good guy. He was like Mr. Emergency.
Yes. Love Al.
Mike was a true hero. Can you talk about some of the rescues he was involved in?
Okay, he was one of the founding members of the New York Task Force One, which was the first of its nation. They were composed of doctor, nurses, FDNY, NYPD, EMS, and they were all self-sustaining. So he was one of the founding members of that. Their first deployment was the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. So they all went to that, and he stayed for about maybe a week and a half. And then he also did the Union Square derailment, which was a huge job in 1992, where all these people were trapped underground in the middle of summer, I believe, using the Hearst tools to try to get them out. Then he went and he was at the first World Trade Center bombing in 92 as well. And then the World Trade Center bombing in 01, and he stayed there for almost 10 months. After that, they had anthrax that became right after the World Trade Center, the last pillar was taking out, all the anthrax attacks. As you remember, there was a lot of envelopes being sent. Tom Brokaw got it, a whole bunch of them. And so ESU did all that coverage as well.
Being the hero that he was, what do you think his legacy, or what would you like his legacy to be?
First of all, Mike hated to be called a hero. He thought that the heroes were the people, especially on 9/11, in the building, on the planes, that actually stayed and helped people, that held the doors, that helped people down the thing, people that ran in while other people were running out. So he was always a helper and an educator, and he would always want to be remembered. It's just make people's lives the best you can, and don't leave without doing all that you could for them, whether they be a stranger or not, no matter what their color, creed, religion, political affiliation. It didn't matter to him. Sorry.
It's okay. We understand. Kevin and I both were down there at World Trade Center, so we know quite a bit about it.
Thank you.
This question might be for your attorney. Could you explain about the lawsuit that she has against the city in layman's terms so our audience can understand what it's about?
Absolutely. So we brought the case. We sued after Cathy was denied. We sued the city in an Article 78 proceeding, which is just the type of lawsuit that you bring when someone's benefits are denied by a city agency. We brought that before the New York County Supreme Court. Judge Lynn Kotler awarded Mike's benefits to Cathy as a matter of law. That's kind of unusual. Typically, the they will remand it back to be reheard by the medical board or board of trustees if they don't agree with the decision that's been rendered by them. But in this case, she felt so strongly that she awarded them herself. The city doesn't typically like that. In this case, they didn't, so they appealed. When we went up to the appellate division, the appellate court, wrongly, I think, reversed Judge Kotler's decision in part, but agreed that at least the medical board and the board of trustees should reconsider the issue of whether heavy metal poisoning might have contributed to Mike's death. And now we know that the medical board has again denied Cathy the benefits, and we don't know why yet. We haven't received the report. They issue a report whenever they deny benefits that lists all their objections to approving it. We haven't seen that. It takes about 6 months for that to come across. And the appellate division decision came down in March of 23, but there's a process to get back before the board of trustees and then get it remanded back to the medical board for further consideration. So we're still waiting to hear why this time they denied it, presumably because they don't believe that heavy metal poisoning was involved in his death. There's no reason for them to believe that, but that's where we stand now. When we get that decision back and we're able to read that report, we're going to try to persuade the board of trustees to do the right thing here and overrule their medical board, which they have the authority to do. It's anybody's guess whether they will, but we hope so. And shows like this that shine lights on these types of things often help. Any pressure that we can bring, any exposure that we can get for this case is very helpful to Cathy and hopefully will be persuasive to the board, but we have to wait and see.
Well, I'm very familiar with that process because I myself am out on disability pension, and the first go around, the board voted it down because that was Giuliani at that time was trying to save money. Why? There's so much money in the pension fund, it doesn't make sense. So I brought an Article 78 action, and it didn't even have to go to court. Just the filing of the Article 78 convinced the Corporation Council to settle the case. So,
wow.
So sometimes there is justice in this world, and the other thing is, it's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong. That the city is appealing that judge's decision.
They already did it, and they won the appeal, and then the appellate court sent it back to them for further consideration on the basis of whether heavy metals might have played a role in Mike's death. If it did, that would be considered a new onset condition. It's either heavy metals or they had to consider it as a new onset condition. The appellate court didn't feel that this fit the bill for a new onset condition, despite a prior appellate court decision that we won where fibromyalgia was deemed a new onset condition with no more proofs than we have here for ALS. So why they made that decision is anybody's guess. It was a different appellate panel. There are many different appellate judges, and you can get very, very widely differing opinions from one panel to another. I've argued almost the same case in different circumstances before two different appellate panels and gotten completely different results.
Well, I know this. I'm in the program as Kevin is, and they're constantly coming up with new findings of what applies. In the very beginning, when the 9/11 program began, there was only a small number of conditions that were applicable. But as time went by and more people were getting sick, they expanded the qualifications. So it's possible that they will include this situation with her husband as a.
That's true, and there's actually petitions being circulated right now at NIOSH, which is in charge of making these determinations as to whether a condition will be added to the list of qualifying World Trade Center conditions. Neurotoxic diseases, including ALS, are being, we think, considered, but we don't know where they are in that process or what would push them over the edge to actually approving that. If that happens, then this claim would have to be approved.
So can I say something, please?
Sure, it's your show. Say what you like.
When they tested the soil down at Ground Zero, shown to be toxic levels of these heavy metals between the planes, the buildings falling, et cetera, they were exposed to all these heavy metals. In Mike's autopsy, it showed that he had toxic levels of a metal antimony, which I believe ultimately caused his death. And Mike believed that because you're it destroys your nervous system. So it's not just what Mike had, it's also Parkinson's, MS, neuropathy, dementia, that thousands and thousands of rescue workers are coming down with, for people that were down there. Whether they came back, they went to school there, they worked there, they were in construction, they were electrical there. There are thousands being affected, and they all have these toxic levels of these heavy metals that actually are destroying their nervous system and causing them to be ill, and a lot of them passing away.
And
There are thousands of them.
at a much higher rate than the general population, right, Cathy?
So I think, in my opinion, it was proved beyond doubt that from Mike's 10 months down there, that's the way he acquired these toxic levels of this heavy metal, which actually destroyed his nervous system and caused his diaphragm to stop working, so it stopped him breathing.
Hey, Tim, doesn't this sound similar to the Zadroga case? Didn't they find elements of glass in his bloodstream or something like that?
I'm not sure.
Jeannie?
So pulmonary is there was findings based on samples of dust from the Trade Center collapse that there was particulates of glass, asbestos, and other heavy metals like mercury, lead, cadmium, radiological materials. So for Jimmy Zadroga, a lot of his illnesses stemmed from pulmonary, his respiratory system, ultimately. There was no recognition early on for a lot of guys that were getting sick by the city, by the state, or by the federal government, until at which, when the Zadroga bill was finally signed, and that took a lot of lobbying, as you know, the illnesses were added from the upper respiratory, the lower respiratory, the gastro, and then ultimately the cancers. Now, if you remember, the bill was signed in 2010, but the cancers were not added until 2012. And then there were 4 cancers missing. To establish your point, Captain Mamet, that yes, they are adding conditions, but they're strength in numbers. So the 4 cancers that were missing that were not added until 2014 was brain, pancreatic, testicular, and prostate cancer. Those cancers were added in 2014 because of the scientific and medical information that was being provided to show that there were elevations in these cancers consistent to the exposure. The most recent cancer that was added, which is now every cancer was added January of last year, is ovarian cancer. That was the last cancer to be added. The neurologicals, the autoimmune, the cardiac, those are all illnesses that we're seeing spike in the 9/11 population right now, but there are no certifications from the program. And the NYPD and other agencies, as far as medically, they go by the legislation that has already been listed. And Dr. John Howard, who oversees CDC, who was appointed by Congress when the legislation was signed, is the one that actually, when you petition to have an illness added, he is the one that makes the final decision. Cathy did petition and write letters with medical records and information from physicians that noted from a neurological sense that the heavy metals in the autopsy findings from Mike caused his death. But yet the federal government says now that there's not enough evidence to suggest to have those illnesses added. So platforms like this and getting the information out, and we know there's tens of thousands of people out there. And don't forget, it's not just for the responders. There's people that lived, worked, and went to school in the disaster site that are being affected by these illnesses as well.
Well, Tim, couldn't you use the Zadroga case as an example?
Yeah, it can be used as an example. We have a more recent case from the first department that is closer on the facts than Zadroga is. So we cited to Sheldon versus Kelly. That's the case that we won before the appellate division, which made fibromyalgia a recoverable condition as a new onset condition without having been added to the list of qualifying conditions. So that was pretty much what we were trying to do here, and it was more analogous.
Hey, it's the Good Greek Spiro, and I have some exciting news. Good Greek has been awarded National Mover of the Year. You've trusted the Good Greek for decades with your family's moving and storage needs. Now Good Greek is proud to be the nation's top mover. So when it's time for you to move across town or across the country, trust America's best mover, Good Greek. Go to goodgreek.com for Good Greek, the National Mover of the Year.
Good Greek Moving and Storage, your superhero movers.
This National Foster Care Month, Marine Toys for Tots is providing hope to children who need it most. Staff Sergeant James Caldwell, who grew up in foster care himself, shares that while handing out gifts at a Toys for Tots distribution event, a little girl looked up at him, reached into her bag, pulled out a stuffed animal and said, "Someone needs to make sure you get a toy too." That simple gesture embodies the heart of Marine Toys for Tots, ensuring every child, including those in foster care, experiences the kindness that can transform their future. Visit toysfortots.org today.
Let's talk about the case implications for the future and other families. How do you see that? Maybe this is for Jeannie. Good question for Jeannie.
Well, if we can have a landmark case such as this one where we can reverse the decision and have Mike recognized as a line of duty death. Remember, this is all for the benefit that go to what is eligible from legislation for us as responders, active members in any agency that was officially deployed, specifically in New York State for guys in the state pension and the city pension, to go back to change their pension for disability should they get sick in the future. And also when they pass away of these illnesses, that there's a line of duty death benefit that is provided to the families. So, and then again, for the survivors, the folks who lived, worked, and went to school that are getting sick with these illnesses for the benefits, not just from the medical side, but also from the victim's compensation, which is not enough money in the world to compensate anyone who's lost a loved one, as you know, to any illness, nonetheless, one that's not being covered now by as being recognized. So if we can get past this and we can have this added, there's a national, remember, there's people that came into New York City from around the country that went home to their home states and getting sick that will be benefited of this legislation and the added illnesses if we can overturn this. And the bill, just so you know, the World Trade Center Health Program has been reauthorized and fully funded based on legislation until the year 2090. So we have 63 more years right now to be able to facilitate that, because the program and the benefits that they provide are going to outlive us, mostly in the 9/11 population. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to do that. Cathy has been very positive. She's been a warrior through this whole process. We have, and in the work I do and the word getting out through social media, through platforms and so forth, and other emails and Facebook and so forth, there are thousands of people that are affected by this that would benefit from some having these illnesses as being related to the exposure.
Cathy, Mike had a saying, which is very, I don't know how to explain it, but it's very unique. He said, correct me if I'm wrong, do what you can for who you can with whatever it takes to get it done.
So when Mike retired in 2006, it was typical that time. You wrote a letter to the other trucks, the 10 trucks, just giving some words of advice. And that was his words: do what you can for who you can with whatever it takes to get it done. And it was adapted by ESU to become the mantra for Emergency Service Unit. It's listed in the ESU trucks and stuff. So that I believe he used that in every aspect of his life. To do everything you can, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what stops you hit along the way or doors close in your face. You do whatever you can to help anybody in any way you can and continue this fight to make people's lives better. And I believe anyone that met him was blessed to know him, and he did make their lives better through just teaching them and being in their presence. And like he was bigger than life in so many ways. So he used it in every aspect of his life, not just in his police work, in his family, in his friends, in his our community, in Highland Mills. He used it in every single piece of his life. That's just the way he lived.
I'd like to point out to our listening audience that the majority of the police officers that were killed that day were from emergency service. I think there was like 21. Am I correct? 21 police officers were killed?
14.
Was it 14? I thought it was a higher number than that.
23 total from
Yeah.
the NYPD, 14 from the emergency service.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. There was the majority were from emergency service. They had no hesitation in going in there, and they gave their lives for the city. I just hope that their memories are appreciated, especially now with all this cop hating going on.
Yeah.
Mike never complained. He always had his sense of humor. He would go to the REMA meetings, even if it meant that they had to eventually go in the wheelchair, right, Kath? You went to Monsignor Romano's annual mass in Brooklyn
Yes.
at Our Lady of Guadalupe. And he kept his faith and his love for family and the love for the NYPD is what really kept him going. And he is an inspiration to so many people and touched so many people from the even the retirees. I mean, there's such a bond and it's such a warm embrace that they give each other. And I just want to say that it was an honor, Kath. As you know, we're working together to get this done, but it was an honor and a blessing that we had him for the amount of time that we had. And his legacy was to make sure this is not about Mike so much, is about making sure that other people get taken care of because of this illness. And that's what Mike said, even when he was at end of life. He just wanted us to make sure that that other people that are affected by this illness would be taken care of.
Well, he predicted in 2002, he told me and a couple of his friends that 20 years or so from now, a whole slew of people are going to be getting ill. That's how long it took to destroy the nervous systems from these metal toxins. And who would have known that it was him, right? And he was just, when people were running out of the building, they all ran in, had no thought of themselves, their health, their loved ones, anything. That's just what they did. That's what anybody should do.
It's sad, Cathy, and we all know this, is so many police officers like Michael has lost their life, fighting for this country and protecting this country from 9/11 terrorist acts, and yet you have to fight for the benefits that you deserve. I mean, they're your benefits. I mean, at the very least, this government should be given the benefits to all the widows and children who lost their loved ones, not only on that day of 9/11, but Jeannie, how many people since 9/11 have passed away from illnesses related to 9/11? Do we have a number?
Yeah, I do actually. 79,000 at least have one cancer that's certified, and at least 30, there's more people that died from 9/11 related illnesses. It doesn't necessarily have to be a cancer. There's lung diseases as far as tracking, but there's more people that died of 9/11 illnesses than people that died on 9/11. That was 2,977 people that lost their life that day.
And I'm sure many of their families are still fighting, like Cathy is, for the right benefits that she deserves. Correct?
So if they're covered conditions, remember there's legislation. So if they are covered conditions, mostly the cancers and the lung diseases, then yes, they have the benefits. But the autoimmune, the dementia, the Alzheimer's, the neurological illnesses like ALS, Parkinson's, MS, those are not covered. So there are people out there that are getting diagnosed with these illnesses and they are passing away like Mike, and there's no benefits.
Right.
It's just a matter of how do we track them, right?
Right.
How do we?
Right.
Yeah, and I promised him. He made me promise that I would help people behind him that suffered like he did. It's hard enough to lose someone you love, but at least the pension would ease a little bit of that. It's something they wouldn't have to worry about. It was their financial. So that fight will never stop until I win.
So at this time, I like to take a second to thank Good Greek Movers for being a sponsor of this podcast. Good Greek Moving and Storage has been National Mover of the Year and most referred moving company in the USA. Spiro Georgiadakis, CEO and founder, was also a police officer, so he knows the importance of safety and the risk of moving. All of the movers are screened and drug tested to ensure your safety. His movers and professionalism trained at the Good Greek Academy. There's actually an academy for the Good Greek movers. They teach them how to wrap, pack, unpack, load, and unload your precious belongings for a safe trip to your home. Good Greek is your total relocation company that will help you find a home, sell a home, or get the insurance you need. Transport your car, take your junk, and move you. They are one-stop shop, and they are the relocation needs that you need. Good Greek Moving and Storage is also the official movers of 18 colleges and major league sports teams as well. So when you need to move across town or across the country, trust America's best moving company, Good Greek. Schedule your move today at goodgreek.com.
What I wanted to mention to you, Tim, if the appellate division, if the city decides to appeal again, I think that you ought to lobby the mayor's office because, as you know, I don't have to tell you this, that the Corporation Council is a mayoral agency, and mayors have instructed the Corporation Council to do certain things. For example, when the stop and frisk bill was kicking around, or the lawsuit, there was going to be an appeal, and when de Blasio became the mayor, he told the Corporation Council to appeal it, not to go along with it. So if Cathy gets an adverse decision, she can ask the mayor's office to intercede. Whether or not he's going to do it, I don't know. But the fact is he's a former cop. He should be sympathetic to her plight. So I just wanted to point that out to you.
Captain, we did that.
There's no question that he has the authority to do that as of right now. I know he's been approached, but we've not gotten any help from that quarter. It's his people on the Board of Trustees that we're hoping will overturn the decision of the medical board this time around. So with this denial, if that doesn't happen, then I know Cathy's looking to fight this till she wins. And it's likely we're going back to the trial court for another Article 78 proceeding to challenge this new denial for whatever reason they denied it, which we still don't know. We're still waiting for that information. But yeah, I would hope that Mayor Adams, as a former cop, knowing what Mike was to the NYPD and who he was, that he would step in at this point and maybe say that they should pull back.
Well, Captain, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I say something, please? So Senator James Skoufis wrote a letter and had 33 other state senators sign it, and they brought it to Mayor Adams, being a former cop, and asked him to drop the appeal before they processed the appeal. So he told them, the office told them, have Cathy go through the system like everybody else does. So he did not intercede in his behalf.
Well, that doesn't surprise me because he says a lot of things that he doesn't follow up on. But I think a case like this would generate an immense amount of public support. And he's looking to be reelected. I think the time...
And 33 state senators signed it. So it wasn't just one senator. They backed me.
Well, we'll try harder next time. We're very sympathetic to you.
Our hope is that he'll have a change of heart on this and that he'll weigh in. And we never know.
Oh, he should, right? I mean...
I think so.
Well, he should because he's always falling back on his police career.
Right.
So let him put his money where his mouth. Let him put the money where his mouth is.
And he was working through 9/11 as well, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm sure, he has documentation as well for himself. I mean, he should understand the situation.
Sorry, actions speak louder than words, right?
That's right.
True. Very true.
But there are many instances of where mayors have interceded. Let me give you another example. This one I know very well. There was a fellow, his name was Jerry. I can't remember the full name. He was a police trainee, and he was drafted, went to Vietnam, and he was injured. He became an above-the-knee amputee. Now, normally the trainees would become cops when they turned 21. He was rejected by the police department, and Mayor Koch, to his credit, sent him to see his own personal physician, Mayor Koch's physician. And the physician said that he should be hired, he could probably do the job. And the mayor overrode everything and appointed him. Jerry Simmons was his name, I believe. And he did 21 years or something like that. He rose to the rank of lieutenant. So there's quite a few examples of where the mayor can override many things. And that's why I really feel if you don't succeed with what you're doing now, you really press the mayor's office to do the right thing.
Again.
Yeah, again.
Exactly.
And I've also spoken to or tried to contact different state senators, other people in political that have some political clout, and either they don't answer me and my daughters either by phone call, email, try to get their support. So far I keep hitting roadblocks with all that.
So what's important too, because there's strength in numbers, so it's not just NYPD, but the fire department is getting hit pretty hard with neural illnesses as well. There's a lot of studies and research that has been done in regards to heavy metals like mercury, lead, antimony, radiological materials. So if there's not enough evidence to suggest now, but there is strength in numbers, so the more people that come forward and report these illnesses to the program, if they're registered in the program, the World Trade Center Health Program, and or also do like Cathy did, do an official petition to the CDC that oversees the program with the medical information and let doctors know, doctors know that they are working, that they were responders down at ground zero, that there were heavy metals, and have physicians write on paper that, and the language could be medically associated, exacerbated, or probably caused by. And that language from physicians, and that we can give that to the program and also petition with the strength and numbers for everyone that's being affected by it. So remember, it doesn't have to just be ALS and Parkinson's and MS. Neuropathy is the number one neurological illness right now in the 9/11 population. And that is that loss of feeling or numbness in the hands and feet, or shooting lightning pains like what diabetic patients get from the feet into the legs. I can't tell you how many people that I've responders and survivors that have tremors and or also have neuropathy. Now, neuropathy is a covered condition in the program when it's medically associated to those that have cancer treatment like chemo radiation. So it's eligible to be certified when it's medically associated to a covered condition, but in of itself, it's not eligible to be certified or recognized. And with the way the NYPD is working, with Article 2 for the line of duty designation for disability and or the line of duty death, they're following the guys more or less based on what's on the Zadroga bill. There have been cases where guys did have illnesses that were approved for disability based on medical information that was provided from physicians, but ultimately it's a matter of pushing back and strengthen numbers and petitioning and having the program added officially as a covered condition.
I've been in touch with Steve Olson. He's the FDNY guy, whose brother Rob Olson also developed ALS, sued the city, cited Mike's case, and they denied it. So Steve Olson is starting to get numbers with the FDNY, and so far he's gotten 15 that have developed ALS, most of them in nursing homes getting supportive care respiratory-wise. That can't be a coincidence.
And how about outside the FDNY and NYPD? Is there other similar situations, Jeannie, that we're hearing about outside New York?
A lot of agencies, state troopers, the state police, court officers, the construction workers from the locals,
Right.
In the private sector like Verizon, Con Edison, and then volunteer fire departments in Long Island, the Nassau and Suffolk County, the volunteer firefighters that were requested by FDNY. Then you have those folks that just self-deployed, that felt compelled to show up, that didn't check in anywhere, but worked on the pile or brought down cases of
Right.
water or boots or gloves. So it doesn't necessarily, there are agencies that are being affected that I've done outreach with, that almost every outreach I do, there's always that one person that has either the tremors, they can't even hold the pen to fill out the application. So it's not just NYPD and the fire department. There's literally, I would estimate, thousands of people out there that are affected by the neurological illnesses.
Right.
Well, I think this has been a very, very informative interview, and hopefully we will try and help you very, very much. Hopefully, maybe the radio station will get behind this. I think public support is extremely helpful in this situation.
I'm sorry, Tim and Jeannie. Is there any way people out there, our listeners who have similar situations, can contact you?
My contact information will be on the website, Kev, for 911outreach.com is the website that you can go to for additional information, as my contact and my email address as well. And I do work with Matt McCauley. Matt is also a retired police officer who worked at Ground Zero and walked the halls of Congress, the lobby, to get the legislation signed for the Zadroga bill. Matt does the victims' compensation side. I do the outreach for the World Trade Center Health Program, but we're a team, and then there's actually a bunch of support staff as well. But 911 Outreach would be the best way to contact me.
Okay.
My firm is Goldberg and McEnany. We can be looked up at nypensionlawyers.com. Three-quarter disability cases are the only types of cases that we handle. All cops and firemen. We do a lot of these World Trade Center cases as well, and we should be easy to find. Our phone number is 516-775-9400. We're happy to talk to anybody, sit down with anybody. The consultations are free. Give them as much information as they want. And those consultations typically run 2 to 3 hours. We explain the whole process of the three-quarter disability process to them and let them know exactly what they're facing, what our fee structure is. We do this all week long.
Great.
People can also reach out to me, Kevin.
Okay, Kathy.
If they need to. I'm trying to help them through the paperwork that comes after you lose a loved one, which is insurmountable. So they can definitely reach out to me through by email, which I would gladly give to you.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, Kathy, thank you very much for spending time with us today, and we really want to get the message out there. And I wish you luck with the city of New York. Hopefully, they'll do the right thing as they should. And Michael, who I knew personally, very honored to work with him and know him as well as a friend, and he's a true hero. So, Cathy Hanson, thank you very much for being on the show today. Tim McInerney, thank you very much as well. And Jeannie Kelly, thank you, and you're doing God's work every day. Thank you very much. Folks, that's it for today. Our guest was Cathy Hanson. If you like what you hear, please subscribe. You could also follow us on Twitter at CopTalkWABC. That's at CopTalkWABC. Until next time, thank you for listening. Be safe out there. God bless you. God bless law enforcement throughout the country, and God bless the USA. Thank you.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.